Deputy Speaker, and the 60th Parliament received the independent performance audits of the Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission and Victorian Inspectorate report, and it's that report I want to speak to today. This is a report that was produced after a review that was instigated after the legislative change in 2018 that required a review to be done. Now, we look at organisations such as IBAC and the Victorian Inspectorate, and we set up as a Liberal, when we were in government in between 2010 and 2014, IBAC for the reasons that we felt it was important to have openness, transparency, and to make sure that people have confidence in the systems, because corruption, after years and years of Labor, was something that was concerning. So I'm very proud to be part of a team that set up an organisation such as the IBAC. And it's very disappointing that we stand here today and we've got a report that was supposed to be able to have a review take place, but as a result of the legislation needing amending today still, we're not really able to do the proper review. So there was an appointment of the auditor, and the auditors then spent a number of, a long time, rather than being able to complete the audit, working out what they were allowed to have access to, and were hamstrung by the secrecy that was preventing them from being able to do their job. So, as a result of that, a minority paper was produced which recommends that the legislation be amended so that these audits can take place properly. But I'm not sure we will see that into this term of government, despite the recommendation by the minority committee. Clearly, the majority of the committee did not require. I'd like to continue. It's very difficult when you can't actually hear yourself speaking, but thank you very much. So, thank you for that, Deputy Speaker. So, as I was saying, it's important to have integrity and oversight, and the Integrity and Oversight Committee, who actually did this, got this review happening according to the legislation, were unable to actually get the results to understand whether there's effectiveness in IBAC and the Victorian Inspectorate. Now, why do we need that? We need that because the community want to have faith in their government, and we've got examples like in South West Coast, where the Victorian Inspectorate have been asked to review a case with the local council who didn't go through due process that will be investigated, and there was a sacking of the CEO, which was then later reappointed by a court decision, and as a result, the community have referred the issue to the Victorian Inspectorate. Now, as a result of that, we're still waiting some years now for that case to be heard, and consequently the community are very angry and have spoken to me on a number of occasions about the fact that that case hasn't come before the Inspectorate yet, and there's no time frame, there's no understanding of when that will happen, and as a consequence, the persons who are to be investigated, one of them stood in the last election in November 2022 as a candidate, and now works for the member for Western Victoria in the Parliament. So you can understand why the community are unhappy that they can't get an answer from the Victorian Inspectorate as to when that case will be heard. And that is why we need transparency. That is why this minority report quite clearly states that legislation needs to be changed. But we've got a government who wants this corruption to prevail, who wants, despite recommendations by their own Labor-appointed Commissioner of IBAC last year, Robert Redlich, who I believe wrote to the Parliament via the Speaker and the President in the other place, and yet we have not been able to see that information. We have no transparency. We argued last week that we should have independent chairs of committees, so majority is not from the government, so there is more transparency, which is exactly what the recommendation of the Commissioner, Robert Redlich, recommended when he spoke on radio last year. But unfortunately, we've got a government who doesn't want to see that. They want majority so they can continue to put things under secrecy and under the cover. We have 5 that we know of IBAC investigations of our Premier, and this is a disgraceful state of affairs.